The riverside town of Winslow, Nebraska is used to spring flooding. But the area's eighth flood in a century was unprecedented. When volunteer fire chief Zach Klein tried to tell his neighbors to evacuate, it wasn't clear yet that their lives were about to change.
We were knocking on doors because the water came up that fast, and not all of them left.
911, where's your emergency?
I'm stranded in my house in Winslow. I don't want them to miss me.
Within hours, and in some cases minutes, several feet of icy water was gushing through towns across Nebraska.
Our first trip back in was on boats. It's kind of difficult to describe. Debris everywhere.
Only 12 of Winslow's 100 residents have moved back since the flood. Some have already relocated. Others have been living in a complicated limbo for a year.
Half of the homes in town had significant damage.
Plus, rebuilding in the same place might be risky. Nebraska's state climatologists expect precipitation averages to increase by 10 to 15% over the next few decades, which could increase flood risk. The region could also become more prone to weather whiplash. The intensity of the 2019 floods were largely fed by record precipitation, which froze during one of Nebraska's coldest winters on record. Then, a sudden warm system swept across the Midwest, which triggered rapid melting. After months of mulling recovery options over with federal, state, and local agencies, Klein had an idea.
I said, well, what about moving the town? Where we find ourselves today is, legally can we, and financially, is it going to be feasible to make it work? So I think we've got the right people in the room.
Over the course of the meeting, agencies confirmed a fear of his. There's no legal way to move a town in the state of Nebraska. Agencies also questioned if the price of moving such a small town is even justified.
If we fail, we fail. I'm not done fighting. We haven't hit that point. However, the next town shouldn't have to have this meeting.
Welcome to your Urban Affairs Committee.
After hours of back and forth, Klein convinced State Senator Lynn Walls to introduce a bill at the legislature that would allow the move.
Winslow is a close-knit community that wants to stay together. But if they stay in the current area, they risk losing everything. That is not a choice that people, neighbors, families should have to make.
The bill was ultimately prioritized and passed its first vote in the legislature. But Winslow's future is still uncertain.
I think making sure that this isn't broad, something that every community can use just because, is important. But I think that it identifies the issues that are going on with Winslow and similar communities that may have that issue coming up in the future so they can have a pathway.